Good morning, everyone. Now look at Catherine's room there. Doesn't that look like it's straight
Mirror.
out of her mirror?
Yeah.
And the other side. 3 circles. And reverse. And shoe circles. And reverse. And pink circles. And reverse. And reverse. And reverse. Okay, you can put away your sticks. Okay, let's do a set of Fang Zhong Gong. So when you do Fang Zhong Gong, two things about this exercise. One, you follow the same principles that you follow for silk reeling or for Tai Chi or any other of the Qigong programs. And one of those principles is called the three outer harmonies. And the three outer harmonies are between the shoulders and the hips, the elbows and the knees, the wrists and the ankles. So when you're doing an exercise like this, you can feel your shoulders rotating, right? So your shoulders are rotating in Lee circles. Your hips should be moving in the same rotation. Left hip, right hip, and there's some back and forth, there's some Lee circles. Shift your weight, rotate the hip. That's very gentle. And get your knees involved too, right? So the knees are also rotating and pumping up and down. In other words, every joint in the body is moving. The other thing, and this is really what I want to talk about today, I see a bunch of folks here from the advanced Qigong class, so this is going to be a refresher for you because you got it earlier in the week, is the mental attitude that you want to take when you're doing Fang Zhong Gong. the literal translation of Fang Zhong Gong is make, relax, exercise. But it's not just about relaxing. What they really mean by that is to slow down mentally, physically, and even energetically so that you can touch on the softer energies of Tai Chi and Qigong. They're very soft. It doesn't mean they're not strong. It just means they're very soft. And if you don't soften up, then you won't, quote unquote, hear them. You won't be in touch with them. So, for instance, back in the day, pushing hands with Chen Shan, for instance, who's one of Master Feng's last great disciples. And he was a very nice guy, but he was also really trained as a martial artist, and he was very, very good at it. But when he touched you, when you did push hands together and he touched you, his touch was as light as a butterfly's wing, and I am not kidding. So if Annie and I were to do some push hands now, and Annie pushes on me, so she was being much heavier than he would be. He would be like, go ahead, push. Yeah. He would be like this. And you go, all right, why so soft? So that the noise of your movement and your mind does not obscure the perception of the other person. If I'm busy talking loudly and Annie says something, right? Annie says I'm not going to hear her because I'm being so noisy. So it's about becoming very quiet inside in your physical movement, in your energetic movement, and in your mind. And when you do that, if your teacher would stop talking, you can start to perceive really subtle things in yourself and around you. Okay, let's go on to the next exercise, which is bear presses down. Very slow, very gentle, very sensitive. So this exercise will let me get into what I really want to talk about today. And if you've heard this before, this will be a good refresher for you. Most people, when they first start Qigong and Tai Chi, don't think about the air around them. For most folks, it's not that they have a particular opinion, it's that they don't have any opinion at all. It's just a vacuum. I just move through the air, I can see through the air, through clear air, I can move, I sort of, if I stop to think about it, I can feel it, but you don't think about it. But when you do Qigong, and particularly when you do the really yin style Qigongs, like Fang Zhong Gong, you should feel the air. And maybe you can even feel the space. So when you lift your arm, you should feel as if there's a very, very light resistance to you lifting your arm. And then when you press your arm down, you should feel a very light resistance, like you're pressing something down. Lift up, press down. Lift up, press down. So continue, follow Annie, and I'm going to talk through this. In China, they would say the very light feeling that you get inside is like silken threads. It's like silk inside. It's very subtle. It's very soft. Those silken threads, that's your chi. Okay, rest for just a moment. So back in the day, during a conversation after a Chinese banquet in Chinatown, I was sitting with Chen Shang and a number of other of Master Feng's and Master Zhang's disciples. And we started talking about Qigong. And of course, some people only spoke English, some people only spoke Chinese, some people spoke both. So everything was getting translated. And Chen Shang, somehow the conversation got around to this. And Chen Shang said, Qigong is better than sex. And of course, this was a table of guys. So of course we all laughed, right? Well, he doesn't really mean it. And he laughed too. But he said, I'm serious, guys. Sex is a form of Qigong. What's good about sex is sharing those silken threads with another person. So finding these silken threads is finding out something about yourself that can apply to the martial arts and can apply to the health arts and can apply to the love arts too, right? To the Kama Sutra. It's very subtle at first. Okay, if you start to get that feeling, it means you're now perceiving more about yourself and the world around you than you were before. Right? So you just keep doing this exercise with that open mind, just perceiving. And start asking yourself questions like, what's going on? Or what if I think this or feel this? So one thing you might notice, the hand coming up with a very light resistance to it, that's Peng. The hand pressing down as though there's something very light underneath there that you're pressing down, that's On. And when you do it on both sides, one side going down in On, the other side coming up in Peng, what happens in the relationship between those two energies inside yourself. Well, one thing you might notice is there's a difference between this position and this position. This position stretches the energy between the pung and the an. And then as you relax back to the center, now that stretch inside relaxes back into the center. Then it stretches on the other side and relaxes back into the center and stretches on the right side and relax and stretches on the left side. The stretch that you're doing is called chansa. Chansa. S means silk. Chan means to pull. Right? So you're pulling the silk. You're stretching those silken cords. And then they relax back into the center. That's called chosa. Chansa, chosa. Chansa, chosa. Chansa, chosa. Chansa, chosa. When you're doing Tai Chi, you are always doing that. Chosa, chansa, chosa, chansa, chosa, chansa, chosa, chansa. So the ideal is, when you're doing Tai Chi, to do it with the same sensitivity that you've developed in Fang Gong. Your fingers should be like cat whiskers. It's very delicate, but they're feeling around them for the world. And you know how a cat moves, right? Move like a cat. In fact, there's a line in the Tai Chi Classics, which is a series of poems. And this poem has one line: move like a cat. That's it. All right? That's the whole poem. So what did Shen Shang really mean when he said Qigong is better than sex? Of course, that was the English translation. What he really meant is, when you are truly doing Qigong, not just Fang Gong, but all forms of Qigong, but Fang Gong is really special in this way. You're making love to the world. Literally. You are engaged in an activity of connecting to a partner, to the whole world. All right? That's the attitude that you have, is to truly open yourself up, to make yourself open and vulnerable to the world. and some energy goes out, and some energy comes in, right? And you synchronize that just naturally with your breathing. I don't know the terminology for that. To liken it to sex itself kind of puts a little in our culture puts a little something on it that perhaps isn't there in other cultures. So I need to find some terminology for that attitude of being in the world with that same attitude. However, that is not the only attitude that one takes in life. Sometimes things have to be a little different than that. So one of the old phrases, and I'm sure you've heard it, you've probably heard me say it 1,000 times, is one of the definitions of Tai Chi is a ball of cotton with a steel needle inside it. So the ball of cotton refers to this softness. Probably a ball of silk would work a lot better, right? Just soft and open, not thinking about anything, not thinking about even defending yourself or anything like that. But inside there's a steel needle. Well, what does that mean? Because that sounds pretty martial. Well, I think what it means is that these two arts, Qigong and the foundation and Tai Chi growing out of that, pay special attention to the soft sides of things in order to discover the hard side of things. So sometimes, maybe all the time, we don't see or feel the things that are really soft and subtle. Because we're all, if you're like me, we're all banging around through the day doing this and that and everything else, and we're being banged on our head with headlines and news and all this stuff. It's not subtle. And so we miss a lot of the stuff that the ancient Tai Chi masters paid attention to and turned into something, both a very subtle health art and an art of self-defense. And one of the first things that you learn in Tai Chi and Qigong is one of those subtle things is the air around you. As I said earlier, we don't pay any attention to it. We literally do not think about it, except maybe in the form of weather or something like that. Or maybe if you're a kid and you make a paper airplane, and then maybe there's a little thought about, okay, well, the air must be holding that up. But it's a little thought. But in fact, the air around you is a mighty force. And it's so strong, frankly, that it's kind of unbelievable. I've done this before. Let me grab one of my barbells here. So this is a 12-pound barbell. All right? It's not even 14 pounds. The air pressure on your body is 2 pounds heavier than this barbell on every inch. Every single inch has this much weight on it. Put your hand out.
No.
But do you feel it? No. Of course you don't feel it because you grew up inside of it, and the pressure inside you evolved over millions of years to match the pressure of the air. So you don't feel it. You don't even notice it. And it just doesn't seem like a big thing. It's so subtle that you pay no attention to it at all. All right? Okay, I think you guys have all seen these before, but I'm going to show you one 6-second video. Hold on. Okay, can everybody see this clearly?
Yep.
Honey, would you go close the door? Sorry, guys, somebody just started a lawnmower out there. So let me explain this. This is an empty tank car. It's a tank car that has gone past its due-by date. It's going to be scrapped and recycled, but as part of a scientific demo, they are allowing this group of people to come, and you'll notice underneath the carriage there's a big rubber hose. That rubber hose is attached to a commercial vacuum truck. And what the vacuum truck is going to do is pull the air out of the tank car. Now, if the tank car was floating around in outer space, when they did that, nothing would happen. But it's not floating around out in outer space. It's about at sea level. All right. So we got a 6-second video here. It says 18, but I think it's only 6. Anyway, we're going to watch what happens.
I kind of feel like that first thing in the morning.
Annie says that's how she feels first thing in the morning. Well,
I think it's some water in me.
guys, you could take a 16-pound sledgehammer and beat on that tank car all day long, and you'd hardly make any dents in it. But it was absolutely crushed by this 14 pounds of pressure on every inch. Now, that means that the air pressure around you is really strong. All right? It's really a mighty thing. How can you, if you want to think of this in martial arts terms, how can you take advantage of that? That example of using, what is softer than air? What's softer than air? Hardly anything. It's just as soft and pleasant as you can possibly imagine. Until you get to the steel needle. And the steel needle will absolutely crush something. That's Tai Chi. All right? So when you are practicing this, what you're getting in touch with is the really soft side of things. just as soft as air. And reverse. If you want to develop, let's just call it strength. If you want to develop strength, not from lifting weights, but by exploring the relationship between yin and yang, which is what Tai Chi and Qigong are about. They always come together. Right? They're two sides to the same coin, front and back of your hand. They're the same thing, and yet they're different. If what you want is to develop strong yang, so you have strength and even power, right? Then the way to do it is to develop what's soft. When you develop this capacity, you're also developing the other capacity. If your capacity to perceive and play with the soft element in your being, in your body, in your mind, is really small, then your yang is going to be small too. You can't have big yang and a little yin. They're going to be the same size. In the West, if we want to get strong, we focus on this and try and push it out here. Right? And what happens, unfortunately, for a lot of people is they hurt themselves or they get very unbalanced because they're not developing the inside. In the East, they do it just the opposite. They want to develop this, they develop that. And by focusing on that, the capacity for the yang side grows at the same time. Yin, yang, yin, yang, yin, yang. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard. Inside the softness is hardness. Inside the hardness is softness. Right? That's what the two eyes in the fish mean. Right? Inside the red fish, was it red and white? Inside the white fish is a red dot. Inside the red fish is a white dot. So the arts of Qigong and Tai Chi are not about just doing the soft or just doing the hard. They're about learning the whole spectrum, feeling the whole spectrum, right? From light to dark, from warm to cool, from soft to hard. It's mastering that spectrum that allows you to master these arts and then take them and do what you want with them and explore with them. Okay, any questions? All right, guys, have yourself a good day. If you're going to stay for the Tai Chi class, give me 10 minutes. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Ciao.